Thanks for tuning in to your daily dose of quick real estate updates, local housing trends, and market data, plus tips, tools, and strategies to help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence. You're now getting ready with RealiCare Reports, powered by the innovation team, Cami and Rex. Now go grab your favorite morning breakfast, coffee or tea, and let's enjoy today's episode.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a really specific local story, but one that actually tells you a lot about how infrastructure, big corporations, and, well, local rules all crash together.
Yeah, we're looking at the old Wuesthoff Hospital property in Rockledge. It was Orlando Health Rockledge Hospital for a bit, too.
Right, and its future is, let's say, complicated.
It really is. You've got everything here. A hospital closing down, which is always tough for a community. Then there's a building itself, apparently neglected for years, plus major legal talks happening and a community that's, really invested in what happens next, all focused on this one piece of land.
So our goal here is to try and cut through some of the speculation and maybe the noise from public meetings and really focus on the technical side, the legal steps, what actually has to happen for this property's future to be decided. We've looked at the reporting on this.
And the first big thing, the most immediate thing, is physical. It's happening soon. Based on reports from late September 2025, they're getting ready to start demolition.
Demolition of the main hospital building.
Exactly, probably starting sometime in October. So that structure that's been there for decades, it's coming down. That's step one.
Okay, let's rewind just a bit. How did we get to demolition? This wasn't just a gradual phasing out, was it?
No, not at all. It was a pretty definitive shutdown. Remember, it was Wuesthoff, then briefly Orlando Health Rockledge. That Orlando Health phase ended quickly back in April.
And they gave a reason.
Oh, yes. And Orlando Health was, let's say, very direct about why they closed it. They pointed to years of neglect.
Wow. Years of neglect.
Yeah. They said the condition was so poor that the facility, and this is their quote, did not meet the system's standards for patient care environments.
That's quite a statement from a major healthcare provider. When they say the building itself is the reason they're leaving because of neglect.
It tells you demolition wasn't really a choice. It was almost inevitable. You can't meet modern patient care standards if the structure itself is compromised from, long-term lack of upkeep.
So the October demolition isn't just about making way for something new. It's dealing with the past failure, the decay.
Precisely. It's the necessary cleanup. But knocking the building down, that just opens up the next set of questions, the next layer of complexity.
Right. Because October isn't just about demolition crews. There are other crucial steps the City of Rockledge is waiting on. From Orlando Health, who still owns it for now.
Yeah, the city's kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for Orlando Health to act. The city manager, Brenda Fettrow, specifically mentioned they're waiting on this environmental mitigation report.
Environmental mitigation. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in this context? Is it just standard procedure when you tear down a big building?
Well, it can be standard, but given the history here, an old, neglected hospital, it's likely much more serious.
Because old hospitals might have issues.
Exactly. Think about it. Old HVAC systems, maybe lead paint, asbestos in older construction materials, potentially residue from medical chemicals or equipment. These aren't things you just knock down and haul away normally.
So the mitigation report isn't just paperwork. It's about identifying potential hazards left behind.
Yes, and figuring out what needs to be done to clean them up safely, and crucially, who pays for it. The city needs that report to understand if they might be inheriting a huge environmental cleanup liability.
Okay, so they need to know if the site is truly clean before they can even think about what's next. That report is key.
It's a gatekeeper, really. It determines the actual state and maybe the true cost of that land after the building is gone. Without it, planning is kind of flying blind.
All right, so let's assume the demolition happens and this environmental report eventually gets done and dealt with. What happens then? Ownership seems to be a big question mark. Orlando Health owns it now.
But the plan is for that to change. This is where the lawyers come in. City attorneys and Orlando Health attorneys are working through something called a donor-don agreement.
Donor-don. That sounds like a gift, like Orlando Health is just handing it over.
The name is a bit misleading, perhaps. While donor-donee suggests a gift, the reality is likely tied to the original conditions under which Orlando Health, or maybe even Wuesthoff before them, got the property.
Meaning?
It's very probable there was a reverter clause in the original deed, something saying, basically, if this property stops being used as a hospital, ownership automatically reverts, or should revert, back to the city.
Ah, so the city isn't asking for a favor, they're trying to enforce an old contract condition.
That's the likely scenario. They're essentially saying, you stopped using it as required, so give it back as agreed. But, and this is important, it's not automatic.
Okay.
The source material is clear. The property only reverts back if both sides, the city's lawyers and Orlando Health lawyers, agree on the terms.
Terms like who's responsible for any leftover issues, like that environmental cleanup we just talked about.
Exactly. Liabilities are almost certainly a huge part of the negotiation. And then, even if the lawyers agree, the Rockledge City Council has to formally vote to approve the agreement.
So multiple steps before the city actually gets the title back.
Correct. Until that agreement is signed, sealed, and approved by council vote, Orlando Health still technically owns the land, even if everyone expects it to go back to the city eventually.
And why does the city want it back so badly? I mean, obviously it's valuable land, but it seems like there's more to it. Which brings us to zoning.
Bingo. This is probably the single biggest factor controlling what can happen there. The property is currently zoned hospital district.
Hospital district, that sounds specific.
Very specific. And the city council has made their position incredibly clear on this. They stated in a public meeting, quite firmly, that they have no interest in changing that zoning.
No interest, full stop.
That's the message they send. So even if the city gets the land back, that zoning designation dramatically limits what can be built there.
What can be built in a hospital district besides, well, a hospital?
Generally, it restricts development to medical offices, clinics, supporting health services, and of course, a hospital itself. It pretty much rules out things like, say, building apartments, a shopping center, or turning it into a big park.
Even if the community wanted those things.
Even then, the council's stance on zoning basically overrides those other possibilities, at least for now. It's like they've pre-decided the only acceptable outcome is some form of healthcare facility on that site.
It's interesting. They're insisting on a specific use, hospital-related, for a site where the previous hospital operator left, citing years of neglect that made it unusable.
It is a strong stance. It signals a clear political commitment from the council. They seem determined to ensure that location remains dedicated to healthcare infrastructure for the community,
Regardless of market conditions or past failures.
That seems to be the implication of sticking so firmly to that zoning, yes.
Now, the community,
Yeah?
they've definitely been involved, right? I saw reports about packed meetings.
Oh, absolutely. Public interest is very high. The city council chambers were reportedly full on Wednesday, September 24th, specifically for the discussion about this property. People care deeply about what happens there. It's a central location.
And what's the city's response to that public input?
City Manager Brenda Fettrow addressed that. She said the city is very appreciative of the input. But she also framed the city's current actions strategically.
How so?
She said they are, and I quote, trying to protect their property themselves through this agreement.
Protect their property. Does that mean protecting the land itself or protecting its use as a hospital district?
Given the zoning stance, it strongly suggests the latter. They're using the reversion process, the donor-don agreement, to regain control. And they're using the existing zoning power to immediately fence off that control, ensuring it stays within the hospital category.
So it's a way to manage public expectations or demands for other uses, like retail or housing.
It certainly has that effect. By locking in the zoning up front, they kind of preempt those debates before they can even really start.
But despite all this community passion and the council's clear stance on zoning, the city manager also had to pour some cold water on immediate plans, right?
Yes, she had to be the realist in the room, pointing out the legal sequence. She basically said it's too early to discuss specific uses for the property if or when the city gets it back.
Why too early?
Because of those two major hurdles we've discussed. First, the donor-don agreement isn't finished. The city doesn't officially own the land yet.
Right. Can't plan for land you don't own.
Exactly. And second, even if they did own it tomorrow, the zoning is still hospital district as mandated by the council. So their options are already limited by their own decision. Until the ownership is transferred, and if they ever decided to revisit zoning, which they say they won't, any talk about specific projects is just speculation.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this. If you're someone following this story in Rockledge or just interested in how these things work, what are the absolute key things that must happen before we know the real future of this site?
You can boil it down to, I'd say, 3 main dates that need to open.
Okay, gate number 1.
The physical gate, demolition. That has to start likely in October and be completed. The old building needs to be gone.
Gate 2.
The technical, environmental gate. That mitigation report needs to be delivered by Orlando Health, reviewed by the city, and any required cleanup actions need to be sorted out, especially who is responsible for what.
And Gate 3.
The legal gate. That donor-don agreement needs to be successfully negotiated, finalized by the lawyers, and then officially approved by a vote of the Rockledge City Council. That's what actually transfers ownership.
Demolition, environmental clearance, legal transfer.
Those are the prerequisites. But even after all three of those gates are passed, the defining factor looming over everything is still that zoning.
The hospital district zoning that the council is committed to keeping.
Exactly. That decision acts as the primary constraint. It dictates the type of future development possible, regardless of anything else. The council has effectively defined the market for this land before it even technically becomes theirs again.
So the city's using its zoning power to make a very strong, very early statement about prioritizing a specific kind of infrastructure there.
A preemptive move, you could say, to ensure that whatever happens next, it fits within their vision of maintaining healthcare services at that location, even considering the site's troubled history.
And that history is really the crux of the final tension here, isn't it?
I think so. It's where things get really interesting to watch. You have the city council using its governmental power, insisting this land must be for hospital-related use. They're signaling a long-term vision. But the very reason the last operator left was, in their own words, because the facility suffered from years of neglect, making it unsuitable.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with. The city is mandating a hospital-type use on a site with a documented history of, essentially, failure due to neglect. By being so inflexible on the zoning before they even own it, how does that affect who might be willing to build there next?
Yeah. Does insisting on this specific, potentially challenging use make it harder to attract a new, viable healthcare developer? Are they ensuring future services or potentially creating a barrier because developers might look at the history and the rigid zoning and think that's too big a risk?
Especially stepping into a situation that caused the previous system to leave.
It's a classic scenario, really. Local government setting firm rules based on community need or vision, and the market having to decide if it's practical or profitable to meet those terms.
A real test case for Rockledge. We'll definitely keep watching how the demolition, that environmental report, and especially the final donor-don agreement play out.
Keep an eye on those steps, and particularly that city council vote when the agreement comes up. That will be telling. Until next time.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of RealiCare Reports, where real estate meets real life. For more updates, tools, and insights that will help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence, be sure to follow, subscribe, stay connected, stay informed, and stay ready. Until next time.